everybody, Dan here from LeafScore.com. Today I have the pleasure of driving and reviewing a Tesla Model 3. We're going to be taking a look at what it's like to drive this and interact with the interface here. Electric vehicles are also considered more sustainable by many people. We're going to be taking a look at whether or not the Tesla is actually more sustainable than an internal combustion engine vehicle. Before we dive in here and get driving and talk about the driving experience, I wanted to go over some specs of the car. First off, this is a long-range Model 3. It has a range of approximately 350 miles. It's rated a little bit higher than that, but generally speaking, you're probably going to get around 325 to 350 per charge. This is an all-wheel drive car. The Tesla is the fastest production vehicle in the world. So the Model S Plaid currently has the record for fastest acceleration, which is 1.8 seconds for 0 to 60. The Model 3 is a little bit slower than that. It can do 0 to 60 in 3.1 seconds, which is still insanely fast. This car has a top speed of 162 miles an hour. That's what is cited on the Tesla website. Again, you're probably not actually going to be able to hit that, but who needs to hit that? This has a 5-star NHTSA safety rating, and it also received the IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus award. So this is considered a very safe car. So now we're going to get on to the actual experience of sitting in the car, driving the car, just being in the Tesla Model 3. As far as comfort and first impressions go, when you get into this car, it's pretty exciting. I'll show you the dashboard in a few minutes, but everything is streamlined. There are basically no buttons on the entire dashboard. You're sitting in like a fighter jet cockpit. It's really cool. There's a 15-inch screen here that shows you navigation, gives you control of the entire car. We'll talk about some of the annoying things about using the LCD screen for adjusting things like mirrors and the temperature control in the car. But generally speaking, the software is very convenient and easy to use. So we're going to talk a little bit later about the vegan leather in the car and the sustainability of that. First impressions, it's very comfortable to sit in. The vegan leather feels very nice. It doesn't feel like real leather, obviously, but it's quite striking when you get into the car. We'll talk about some of the features of the car and the driving experience as I get going here. So one of the first things that you'll notice when you're driving this car is the regenerative braking. This car is obviously entirely electric. To reduce the frequency with which you need to recharge, the car has regenerative braking, which means every time you hit the brake, it charges the battery a little bit. It's a little off-putting at first because when you take your foot off of the gas, the regenerative braking kicks in and it slows down the car quite a bit, all the way to a full stop. So I'm going to give you a quick example of that. So I'm doing 15 miles an hour right now. I'm going to take my foot off the brake and it slows down quite a bit and quickly. The second thing you'll notice is the acceleration is amazing. So full disclosure, I come from driving a Prius, which has basically no acceleration. This car, just when you hit the gas, it goes. Where you want it to go, it will get there very quickly. Like I said before, it goes 0 to 60 in 3.1 seconds. It's probably a little bit longer than that, but honestly, it doesn't feel all that long when you hit the gas. So another thing that I wanted to mention is the handling. This car has really kind of twitchy handling. It's extremely responsive. So right now I have it in, I believe it's called sport mode. I will show you that in a few minutes when I give you a look at the dashboard. It's very responsive. So you just turn the wheel a tiny bit and you're going that direction, which is pretty cool. So another thing I imagine most people want to know about is autopilot. Tesla is probably most notable for the autopilot feature on its vehicles. The car can basically drive itself. So there are a few different levels of autopilot. One will just keep you in the lanes while you're driving on highways, and it will change lanes for you, but it won't actually navigate for you. Full navigation, or autopilot with full navigation, will actually drive the car for you. I believe the full navigation is in beta right now, but it is available on some cars. I also think that it is a $10,000 upgrade to get that, which is pretty substantial, but in my opinion worth it, because it's just really cool. I have driven a friend's Model S and have used autopilot. It is very off-putting when you first start letting the car drive for you. But you get used to it very quickly, and it's almost too convenient. One thing I just realized as I was waiting at that light is when the light turns green, if you don't start going, the car beeps at you to let you know that the light's green, which is just really, really awesome. The last thing I wanted to mention while actually driving the car is the space and the storage. So just for reference, I am 5'10", and I have plenty of space and space to spare. So I don't have the seat back all the way. There's plenty of space between my legs and the steering wheel. It's just a spacious car. I've sat in all of the seats just to test it out. I would say that a full-grown adult could very comfortably fit in any seat, with the exception of the middle seat in the back. If you have two people on either side of you, or one person on either side of you, it's not going to be terribly comfortable or spacious, but that's the case with really any car, so you can't really fault Tesla for that. The trunk in the rear of the car has a ton of space. My Prius has quite a lot of cargo space in the trunk, and this has even more, which is really impressive. The Teslas also have a frunk, which is a front trunk, and frunk is actually the term that Tesla uses in its manual. And that is very limited on space, but still it's pretty cool to have additional storage space in the front. That's about all I wanted to review on the driving experience. I'm going to give you a quick look at the dashboard in a minute, and some of the features in the car. And then we will discuss the sustainability of the Tesla in terms of manufacturing, charging, the materials used inside the car, things like that. Okay, before I dive in here and talk about the interior of the car, I wanted to mention that I was talking about the acceleration and the twitchy handling. Those things can be updated on the user interface here. And also, they're kind of just important because driving a Tesla really, it just lets you position yourself on the road wherever you need to be, which is really convenient. It makes driving more enjoyable, and I feel like it makes it a little bit safer because you have total control of the car. The car does what you tell it to do when you tell it to do it, which is really nice. So now we're going to take a look at the interior of the car. Like I mentioned before, I have plenty of legroom here. I am 5'10". I had my brother, who is 6'3", get in the car, move the seat back. He has plenty of room and would be comfortable on long rides. Just some cool features to talk about. First, below the screen here, we have these two bays for cell phones. These are charging bays too. So if I turn my phone off and stick it there, you'll see that it starts charging, which is really nice, and you have one for the passenger as well. As far as storage in the cockpit goes, you have this cargo space here, which is pretty spacious. It auto closes as well, which is pretty nice. You also have the console here, and there's quite a lot of room in there as well. Like I said before, you have the trunk and the frunk, and you can open them from inside the car, which is pretty cool. The directional is a physical lever, which is really nice. I know in the Model S, I believe the Plaid, you do not have a manual lever to turn the directional on. And it's just really nice in the Model 3 that you have that physical feedback when you go to put your directional on. So I want to talk about the software now. This is probably one of the coolest parts about the car. So when you're sitting in the cockpit, you have full control over everything in the car. You can see here you have control over your lights. You can turn them on auto, which means they will automatically come on if the car detects that it is driving in low light conditions. It will also turn on your brights automatically if they are really low conditions, and it automatically turns them off when a car is approaching you, so you're not going to be blinding anybody on the road. You have total control over everything. You can open your glove box from the console. You can lock your windows. You can turn child lock on and off, which is really nice that it's not one of those little buttons inside the door. You can fold your mirrors in if you're going to park. You have control over your windshield wipers here. Obviously, you see auto here, which is another great feature. If the car detects water coming over your windshield and auto is on, it will automatically turn the windshield wipers on, and it will calibrate them based on how much water is traveling up your windshield, which is it's just a really nice feature and makes the car so enjoyable to drive. You have full control of your mirrors here. I will say that not having physical buttons for the mirrors is a little bit off-putting. If you don't remember to adjust your mirrors before you start driving, fumbling around, you click this card down here to get into the control panel, fumbling around and clicking this and then clicking mirrors and then hitting left or right to adjust the other one. I feel like it's a little bit dangerous to do that while you're driving. So you just have to make sure that you have it set up before you start driving. The Tesla does allow you to have multiple keys and profiles set to different people, which is really cool. So if you have your own key, it will automatically set the mirrors for you based on your preferences when you get in the car. When you're adjusting the mirrors, you click left and then you use this button here to actually move the mirrors, which is pretty nice. And then you can save your settings or restore the defaults. You can record via your dash cam or outside your car using the cameras on the side and back, which you can see here. So that is the backup camera. These are the cameras on the side of the car. So when you're driving, if you hit reverse, this will automatically come up as well as these. And then if you hit your directional at any point, the corresponding side camera comes up to show you your blind spot, which is very, very convenient. I love that feature. So going back to the control panel, you also can change your steering wheel, the position of that. And then Sentry Mode records outside your car when somebody gets close to it and you're not in the vehicle. So moving beyond the basic controls here, you can also control the how responsive the gas and brake pedals are, as well as the steering. So I have it in standard steering or standard acceleration. You can also go to chill. Chill is obviously a slower acceleration. There are other options that you can upgrade to. I believe ludicrous speed is the fastest one right now. And that is an over-the-air update, software update that allows you to access that. The steering mode, you have comfort, standard, and sport. I have it in sport, which is why I said the car was twitchy before, and I love that, which is why I set it to sport. Comfort and standard is going to be much more like a typical car, and comfort is kind of like driving a boat where the steering is not very responsive. So if you prefer that, then that's an option. And it's pretty cool that you can just change it from here. The stopping mode, the creep, roll, and hold, that controls the regenerative braking and how quickly the car comes to a stop when you take your foot off the accelerator. Creep is going to be similar to a internal combustion engine car, like a standard vehicle. Roll is what I have, which kind of slows down quickly, and hold will not slow down the car at all. So next we're going to move on to charging. Here you can see the full percentage of the battery that you have left in your car. You can open the charge port. So if you're going to a supercharger or you're getting ready to charge at your house, you can just click that and it opens up. You can adjust the current based on where you're charging and how quickly you want to charge. And then you can schedule your departure from your location. So if you go to a supercharger or you're charging from home and you want to leave at 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. for work, let's say, you can schedule to leave at 8 and the car will automatically start charging in time for you to leave at that point and have close to 100% battery. So autopilot is what I was talking about before. This is what controls how your car drives itself, which is very, very cool. You can set the speed limit and how far over the speed limit you want your car to go in that mode. And then you have some other options here, a speed limit warning, the collision warnings, lane departure avoidance, things like that. It is very convenient to get in the car, regardless of how you have it set up. So there are 3 options. One is a small figurine of a Tesla that you can put on your keys. And when that gets close to the car, your car automatically unlocks and sets to your driving preferences. Another option is to have this card. This is in a protective case, obviously, because this is a rental, but as you approach the car with this card on you, it will automatically unlock. And I believe this will also set to your driving preferences. The third option is you can use the Tesla app on your phone, which is very convenient. And as you approach your car with your phone, the car unlock sets to your preferences. I would recommend that just because everybody is always going to have their phone on them. So it's probably the most convenient option. You also have control over your lights here, your headlights, how you want the display, the language, the brightness. You could turn it to auto. So your trips here will show you the distance you've traveled in past trips and how much energy you've consumed. It has full navigation, which is really nice. Some safety features, Sentry mode I mentioned before. Your dash cam you can turn on and off. You can set a pin to drive just in case somebody gets a hold of your key. You can also lock your glove box with a pin, which is really, really awesome. Cabin overheat protection is for temperatures if you're in an area with very high temperatures. So the activation temperature, if the cabin gets to 100 degrees, your car is always on, so it will automatically turn on the AC for you, even if you're nowhere near the car, to keep it at a safe temperature. You can also set it to have it at a particular temperature for when you get back in the car so that it is always comfortable. You can also do that in the cold. So you can set the heat to come on automatically if the cabin temperature ever dips below a certain degree. And then you have some security features. So service is another great feature of this car. You can automatically schedule service from the road from your car. Software is really nice. You can get automatic updates over Wi-Fi, which this car has, by the way. It is fully equipped with Wi-Fi, so I can go to I can watch Netflix on this even if I don't have my phone. It does not use 3G to 3G from your phone to connect, rather. And then you can purchase upgrades for the car right from here. For some reason the service is unavailable, probably because it's a rental and it's turned off. But you can purchase additional upgrades from your vehicle, which is very, very cool. Some other things that the car has, it's got a full phone service on the screen. So if you connect your phone to it, you can make phone calls from here, send texts, whatever. You have full streaming of capability. This is connected to 3G, and it also provides Wi-Fi to connect to. These are the cameras, which I showed you before. These are additional features, so some cool things to talk about. You have arcade mode, so you can play games in your car while you're at a supercharger or while you're waiting to pick somebody up or what have you. You can connect to things like Apple Music. Karaoke is karaoke in your car, which is just another really cool feature. Totally unnecessary, but really awesome that they put it in here. You have access to Zoom if you need to, Spotify, theater, pretty much everything that you might want on a display in your car, and some things that you might not want. They're there for you. So this icon here is the radio. I'm not going to turn that on, but the sound in this car is pretty amazing. It's really enjoyable to listen to music in here. It also has active noise cancellation for road noise, which again just makes the driving experience phenomenal. And then this here will show you everything you need to know about how much power your car has, how much you've consumed, and it compares it to your average. So you can see that I have 93% left. It will tell you how much battery power has gone to battery conditioning, which is prepping your battery for charging, how much elevation has impacted your consumption, how much climate control and your driving habits have affected your power consumption. The last thing I want to show you in this car is the climate control. So down here is the climate control. You could turn it on and off by tapping, and then if you tap it again, you see this crazy airflow controller here. So you can adjust how the air from your vents flows through your car from the screen, which is really, really awesome. You could do that for both sides, and you can also do the rear of the car. If you click over here, you can turn on heated seats. Heated steering wheel is right here. You can turn on your defroster. You can also control your seat from here. There are buttons on the side of the seat as well to do that, but also control it from here. One thing I will say is that adjusting the airflow is, I feel like it's not really convenient for when you're driving the car. So this is another thing, much like the mirrors, that you want to dial in before you start driving, because if you're driving and you got to click the climate, and then you have to adjust these things and change the temperature and change the fan speed, it's just not as convenient as having physical buttons that you can feel and get feedback from as you are changing them. But still, if you set this up before you're driving, really, really cool and totally unnecessary that you can change how the air flows in your car. Basically, it offers you total control, and really it's very comfortable. There is an easy way to change the temperature in your car while you're driving. You can just tap this, which is relatively safe to do while you're driving. That's not a huge deal. But if you want control over the airflow, I wouldn't recommend doing that while you're driving. One last thing I wanted to mention is getting out of the car and getting into the car. So your car is always on. When you walk up to the car with the key on you, it automatically unlocks, tunes to your personal settings. When you want to get out of the car, you're going to use this handle right here, this lever. There is a button on the right side for park. You just push that in, get out of the car, and walk away. The car doesn't shut off, so it's a little off-putting at first, but it detects when your key is not in the vehicle, and it will shut some services down, like the screen, to conserve energy. It really makes getting into and out of the car very convenient. As off-putting as it is at first, you get used to it, and you'll never want to go back to a standard car that doesn't do that for you. That's basically all I wanted to talk about on the interior of the car. We're now going to move on to talking about how sustainable this car is, and the manufacturing processes and the materials that are used in the car, and how they contribute to the company's environmental friendliness as a whole. So since I live on Long Island in New York, I thought it would be appropriate to bring you to the beach to discuss some specifics about charging before we dive into the sustainability of the Model 3 and Tesla as a company in general. So you can charge at a supercharger, which is a public charging station owned by Tesla. We'll talk a little bit more about the sustainability of that in the next section here in a few minutes. The long-range Model 3 has a battery capacity of 80 kilowatt hours, and the highest cost to charge that I've seen at a supercharger is about 25 cents per kilowatt hour. So you're looking at no more than around $20 to charge your Tesla Model 3 long range from 0 to 100, which most of the time you will not be doing anyway. If you charge at home, obviously, it depends on the cost per kilowatt hour. That costs 25 cents per kilowatt hour at a supercharger will also vary based on where you live. We'll leave a link in the description to an article about the specific costs of charging a Tesla. But for now, I just wanted to give you that baseline. Okay, so finally we're going to get into the sustainability of the Tesla. Like I said before, most people consider electric vehicles to be more sustainable than internal combustion engine cars. And while that is true to some extent, there are also emissions to consider when you're buying a Tesla and really any electric vehicle. So first off, I have some stats here. It takes between 5,200 and 35,000 pounds of carbon dioxide emissions to manufacture a Tesla Model 3, a Tesla in general. That includes Model S and Model Y. For comparison, That's about 3 times the CO2 emissions that it takes to manufacture an internal combustion engine car. So in the manufacturing process, electric vehicles are significantly less sustainable than internal combustion engine cars. So obviously over time, the Tesla will become more sustainable than an ICE car, and that's because it uses electricity rather than burning fossil fuels like gasoline or diesel oil as fuel. So it is more sustainable to use electricity than it is to use fossil fuels. With that being said, with the CO2 emissions significantly higher to manufacture a Tesla, you're looking at several years before the Tesla becomes more sustainable than buying an ICE car. So Tesla does go to pretty significant lengths to reduce the CO2 emissions that it creates manufacturing a Tesla. In its manufacturing process, it has gotten to the point where it uses less water per car than ICE automobiles. So obviously that is a win for Tesla. All of the manufacturing for Tesla is done in the United States, so there are fewer emissions there because the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, regulates emissions for manufacturing of automobiles more heavily than other countries. So Tesla's being manufactured in the United States does make it slightly more sustainable than an ICE car. Next up, I wanted to mention the vegan leather that we pointed out in the car before. It is beautiful. It feels very nice. It's very comfortable to sit on and to touch. Tesla started using exclusively vegan leather in the early 2010s in response to customers complaining about the ethical concerns of using real leather. The vegan leather may or may not be more sustainable. It certainly is more ethical than using real animal hide leather, but the volatile organic compounds, the VOCs that it takes to manufacture the vegan leather should be called into question. So things like polyvinyl chloride, which is PVC, and other plastics which are harmful to both the environment and the manufacturing team that works on these materials, those are harmful. They're more harmful than the tanning process for leather. So that is something to consider. The base model for the Model 3 and the Model S and the Model Y, they all have cloth seats. So you can choose cloth seats over vegan leather to reduce the VOCs that are required to manufacture. Teslas also have a bamboo interior option, which is insanely expensive. I have here that it's around $20,000 to upgrade to the bamboo interior, so significantly more sustainable, but probably not realistic for most Tesla drivers. So if you're gonna go for pure sustainability, cloth seating is your best option. Next up, one of the emissions that a lot of people neglect to consider when buying an EV are the brake and tire dust. So all cars generate brake dust when the brake pads scrape up against the tires to slow down and stop the car. Some of the particles come off of those brake pads and are left in the road. So this is an issue with all cars. Teslas, however, are significantly heavier than most cars. The Model 3 weighs around 4,000 pounds. The Model S is up to 4,500 pounds. And most ICE cars, sedans, weigh between 2,500 and 4,000. So Tesla is right at the peak of where a normal car would weigh and goes beyond that for other models. So slowing down more weight obviously is going to put more wear on your brakes, which means more brake dust, which is a higher level of emissions there. The same thing with tire wear. As you drive your car, your treads reduce in size over time. And the reason they do that is because as your tires interact with the pavement, small particles of rubber are scraped off of the tires and left in the road. So that's another type of emission that often gets overlooked, and you're going to see more tire wear on a Tesla, again because the car is heavier, so there is more friction between the tires and the road. Next up is EV charging. So when you use an electric vehicle charger in a public electric vehicle charger, most of them will use fossil fuels off-site to generate that electricity. So just like the electricity in your home, most of it comes from burning fossil fuels. It is more efficient to burn fossil fuels at a power plant than it is in your home, but still if you're charging at a public station for most EVs, you're going to be using fossil fuels to generate the electricity for them. Tesla is different though. As of 2021, all Tesla superchargers use 100% renewable energy, which is really phenomenal. And this is where Tesla really stands apart from other EVs. You're getting 100% renewable energy to charge in public. If you also charge at home, you are going to be using fossil fuels unless you have a solar system installed, in which case you could get 100% renewable energy for your Tesla as well. Just to give you an idea of how long it takes to charge a Tesla at home, it's on a 220 volt outlet, level 2 charger. It takes between 8 and 10 hours. Which is perfect for charging overnight. On a supercharger, you can get up to 200 miles in 15 minutes, which is super fast. And remember, you have entertainment built into your car for when you are at those superchargers. Next up, I wanted to discuss the battery recycling. So this is another area where Tesla stands apart from the competition. 100% of their scrapped batteries from the manufacturing process are recycled. And Tesla has an amazing battery recycling program for end users as well. So that cuts down on the emissions it takes to produce new Teslas. So as Tesla grows as a company, it's going to become more and more sustainable because more and more batteries will be recycled. A quick note on the paint. Tesla uses a water-based paint. This is a low VOC water-based paint. This is generally considered the most sustainable option. Plenty of other vehicle manufacturers use this paint or this type of paint as well. Some people have reported issues with the Tesla paint shipping very easily. Obviously this is a rental, so I cannot comment on that. I have known people who have owned Teslas though, and they haven't had any issues, but of course that can vary. Another quick thing to mention is that all Teslas come equipped with a HEPA filter, air filter for the ventilation system. So you can get clean air, the air outside, scrubbed for the inside of your car while you're driving. Model S's and Model Y's have a larger HEPA filter, and you can go into what's called bioweapon defense mode on Model S and Model Y. In that case, they've put it through the test, and it can keep the cab clean in an environment with 100 times the maximum pollution in the EPA's good standards. So 100 times the pollution that EPA considers good quality. The car can keep the interior perfectly clean, even in those conditions. The Model 3 does not have the bioweapon defense mode, but it is equipped with a HEPA filter. They actually found that the Model S that they tested in bioweapon defense mode not only scrubbed the air inside the car, but also scrubbed the air outside the car, so it was actually contributing to a cleaner environment. Again, the Model 3 does not have the bioweapon defense mode, but Model S's, Y's, and X's all do come equipped with that. Some other considerations to make. Tesla is not a member of the Responsible Steel Initiative. There are other automobile manufacturers who are members. Those include Mercedes-Benz, Hyundai, and Volvo, so that is an area where Tesla falls short. Tesla also does not publicize where it gets its raw materials, claiming that it is proprietary information. This isn't necessarily a red flag, but obviously it's not ideal. We'd love to see where the raw materials are coming from to make sure they're being ethically and sustainably sourced. Lastly, Teslas are made to be super aerodynamic, and they have an excellent battery size to mileage ratio. So this has an 80 kilowatt hour battery, provides around, well, up to 358 miles on a full charge. You'll probably get less than that, but you can get up to 350. That is a miles to kilowatt ratio of 4.47. So in some EVs, you get a longer range simply because the manufacturers make the batteries bigger, which is not terribly sustainable because adding more weight reduces how efficient your battery is. The Tesla has a very high miles to kilowatt hour ratio, which is excellent. The Model 3's is 4.47. Most other cars average around 3.16, so this is yet another area where Tesla really shines. So that's all I wanted to mention here. I had an absolute blast driving the Model 3. Considering buying one, my wife and I are going to buy an EV this year, and driving this has shown me just how much fun a Tesla can be and how convenient it is. You walk up to the car unlocks, you get in, you can just go. When you're ready to get out, you hit park and you get out and walk away, and that's it. I don't know if you can hear the car right now, but it's around 38 degrees out, so it's quite cold here. The car is currently heating the cab for me, and obviously I'm not in it. The key is not in it. If I walked away, it would continue doing that. So it's always going to be comfortable when you get in. I'm actually going to take you here and show you around the car so you can get a sense of what it looks like. So as you can see, this is a super sleek car. Really, really gorgeous. The Model 3 has these handles. So the Model S and the Model Y, these will pop out automatically when you walk up to the car. The Model 3, you have to push this, grab that, and then open the car. Here you can see the camera on the side. Let's take a look, walk around the back. I'm actually going to open up the trunk here and show you the cargo space. So I'm going to hit open there. I'll open the front as well. So we'll walk around. Really impressive cargo space. Not sure if you can get a good sense of how much space there is on the camera, but this comes up. There's another compartment under there. Just really a ton of space. Like I said before, more than I have on my Prius, which I consider quite a lot. Automatic button here to close the trunk. Take a walk around this side. There's the side camera, another side camera, that's the blind spot. Here is the front. So like I said before, not a ton of space, but it's nice to have a storage, you know, a pocketbook or a gym bag or even some groceries, have some extra space is nice. This is not automatic, so that's a manual close. So that's about it. I had an absolute blast driving this car. I would absolutely recommend anyone driving this, at least taking one for a test drive and see how it feels. It's really nice how it handles, how it accelerates. And like we discussed, the company and the car as a whole are both quite sustainable. So maybe not as sustainable as some other manufacturers, but it's definitely up there. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions at all about the Model 3, what it costs to charge, how long it takes to charge, any questions about the software, leave them in the comments below. We'll do our best to get back to you and answer your questions. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time.